Hey son, now that you're 13, you're gonna notice a lot more things changing. There's gonna be hair in places where it wasn't before, your voice is gonna sound different.
Upside down crucifixes engraved into my chest, devil horn sprouting up the top of my head, hooves appearing where my feet used to be.
Exactly. You make me so proud.
I love you, Dad.
Gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And the fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks. In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
G'day, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another very special episode of Marathon Me with your host, Kane.
And Rhys.
And today, it's the big one. It's the one that you've all been waiting for. We've been really excited to finally record. It is Damien, the Omen II.
It's all been building up to this, baby.
Exactly,
and also,
boys.
And our 100th episode.
Oh yeah, that too. Yes, woo! Let's fucking go,
100th
boys.
episode. 100th episode special. So we're going to be doing things exactly how we do it every time, talking about a movie, reviewing it, and talking about how it fits into the marathon of it all. Crazy stuff.
Excellent stuff. And what a movie to talk about. Talking about a perceived quote-unquote shitty horror movie sequel. I think that's kind of perfect in terms of the ethos of our marathon of this series and our love for horror films in general, since, you know, when we talk about horror movies, we usually always like have more to say about horror movie sequels that a lot of people maybe won't enjoy as much. I think it kind of makes sense that our 100th episode is just some random horror movie sequel, to be honest.
Sitting at the strong Rotten Tomatoes score of 48% and a high 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb, the classic Damien, Omen II, which also, that is the actual title of this film. Let's just call it Omen II, people.
Weird.
Like,
yeah, please.
Yeah, it'll make it much easier for us.
It's also funny that you mentioned that. It's like sitting at a very sexy 48%. It is sitting at the same Rotten Tomatoes score, or very close to the same score as the original Saw movie, which I think is pretty funny.
That is Saw is that low on Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, I mean, Rotten Tomatoes has always been fucking weird when it comes to horror movie ratings and all that. Unless you're like The Exorcist or Halloween, they're gonna give random shitty reviews to like even great horror movies. I mean, hell, we've already had our problems with Rotten Tomatoes. Flashback to our Friday the 13th Part 3 episode. Fucking like what was it, 9% or something?
Oh my god, it's something like that.
Obviously, Rotten Tomatoes, not really the most credible review score. If you guys want credible reviews, come to Marathon Me. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Who needs Rotten Tomatoes, really?
Exactly.
So this installment is the second in the Omen franchise. It was filmed a few years afterwards, and it rejoins Damien from the first film, our Antichrist, friend of the show, about 8 years later as now a 13-year-old. Amidst military schooling and having to come to terms with the monster that he really is. And here's a bit of the trailer of Damien, Omen II.
You mustn't attract attention.
You're not going to treat Damien any differently. You're not going to look at him. You're not going to talk to him any differently.
The day will come when everyone will know who you are, but that day is not yet.
I know who you are. Say it, Mark.
Get Mark away from Damien.
Look at me, Mark.
Damien, there are things you don't understand. Read your Bible. Better get over here right away.
He needs me.
I need you.
Damien, Omen II. Why only other boys and not Damien?
I don't understand.
Damien has a different cell structure.
Different? What does it mean?
I've been working on the story for years now. I think I pieced it together. Oh, please, please, you must listen to me.
The first time was only a warning.
Okay, the trailer was well and good and everything, but what I want to bring up is the fact that during this recording session, just a minute ago, when Rhys is going into his whole coming to terms with the monster that Damien really is, the call just cuts. Rhys just cuts to silence, and I'm thinking, okay, this must be him cueing, like him giving me the cue to, be quiet for, announcing the trailer. But he always says, and here's a little bit of the trailer. I didn't hear that part. He just cut out after the whole coming to terms with the monster he really is. What the fuck? What is with these recording sessions? Why is it so... Oh my... I mean, obviously we know why it's fraught with more production issues than usual, because obviously the devil doesn't want us to record these. Well, fuck you, Satan. We did the first one. We're doing the second one, alright? Leave us alone.
I genuinely... See, I can't even speak now. Speaking in tongues, Kane. I'm genuinely feeling uneasy. I'm in a freaking... It's really cold here in Sydney, and I'm in the freaking garage studio, sort of shivering a little bit, all by myself. This is making me feel a bit weird, Kane, not gonna lie.
Well, do you have any... Are there any crucifixes in the house at all?
Well, not yet, but I probably should go and get one to hang around my neck just in case.
Yes, okay, good. Maybe I'm not feeling as cold because, I did dress up as Jesus and I did dress up as a priest, so I do have that little bit of the holiness within me, inside of me. The holiness is inside of me right now, has come inside of me.
I thought that you meant that you were dressed up as Jesus as we speak. And I could not believe that we went through an entire episode of recording just before, and you did not mention, after talking about the Omen for an hour, that you were dressed as Jesus.
Well, maybe I might have to do that for the ranking episode.
That's probably why the Antichrist is getting a bit weird with us. You're literally dressed as his enemy right now, dude. Why are you... you were asking for this, man.
Well, then why am I not feeling fucking freezing at the moment? Why am I not feeling uneasy? Why are you the one getting barrage, fucking beaten to death with all these weird demonic anomalies? Why am I not being punished right now?
Because the power of Christ compels you, Kane. That's why.
It is very compelling. It is very compelling. One thing that I cannot sadly say about this movie, Rhys, what is your opinion?
Oh, perfect segue. This movie is very silly. Man, I was ebbing and flowing through this film of being okay, I am enjoying this, I'm into this, and then thinking, what are you doing, movie? Well, come on now. So I ultimately had a fun time, did not hate it, but I think it's very poorly put together and and makes some active decisions, despite how promising this could have been, to make some active decisions that sort of puts it in the gutter and makes it not very good. So that's my sort of take.
See, that I think is the perfect way to kind of sum up this movie, is that there was a lot of potential that could have been, utilized to make a really compelling Omen sequel, especially with having Damien be at such at an older age, and could have made for a decent character study on not only the trials and tribulations of puberty in general, but also obviously him coming to terms with the fact that he is the Antichrist, since he has a lot more agency, a lot more personality this time around compared to being a 5-year-old. But all in all, in my opinion, this film, you said this film was silly. That's what I was hoping for going into this. It is silly to a point, and then kind of stops and becomes a complete and utter fucking bore. This film is a bore to me. And you know why? Because I think this film... It is basically just doing what the first movie did, except a lot more poorly and a lot more half-heartedly. I think this film feels like a poor man's version of the original Omen, in my opinion.
That is, I love that you say that, because I thought this felt a lot cheaper, on almost every layer. But the budget of the last movie was $2.8 million. You know what the budget of this movie is?
It was double.
It was more than double. It was $6.8 million. What?
And you do not see it at all.
You
do not see it at all. From the effects to the cinematography, you don't
to the
see
talent
it at
even
all.
like I would assume that a lot of the budget would have gone to Gregory Peck for the first Omen, but it actually was the least amount of money that he has taken for a role. I think it was only like
right.
It was only like I think like $100,000 or something, but in his contract he also signed up for 10% of the gross profit of the film, which then meant that he made millions out of it, and then it ended up being one of his greatest earners overall. But then the smallest amount of money that he got at the start. But anyway, this doesn't have any Gregory Peck in it. This has no one of note in it, really.
Well, actually, I'll quickly correct you. The guy that plays his uncle in this movie, I actually just found this out before we started recording, is the dude that was playing his uncle in this movie, apparently was a big talent back in like the 1940s, 1950s. Apparently starred in Sunset Boulevard, which, you know, I've never seen, but apparently it's a pretty big movie. I think he was also in
Bridge on the River Kwai as well.
Yes, Bridge on the River Kwai. Yes, that's what he was in, and he was actually originally supposed to be Gregory Peck's character in the first movie, but passed it up because he didn't want to be in a film, you know, portraying, you know, the Antichrist and the devil and all that. And obviously, after seeing the success of the original, decided, no, okay, I'm signing on for the second movie. I'm jumping on board for this. So there is talent. Plus, also we got one of the earliest roles of friend of the podcast and fellow android Lance Hendrickson.
Yes, I'm so glad that you brought that up. I also had Lance Henriksen in my notes.
Yeah. So there is some talent, but not obviously, you know, not to like the recognizable standards of, you know, Gregory Peck. And
Thank you very, very much for correcting me with that, because fair point,
no
is that William Holden actually a big deal, but you wouldn't know in this movie because he has no screen presence in this film. He is like with you saying that this was an utter bore, man. William Holden in this is so boring. It does feel like poor man's Gregory Peck performance.
Yes. Yes, I know, right?
And you're very, very, but it doesn't have the same stakes because they don't have the same history. He doesn't really, there's no close-ups of William Holden that make you think, wow, this man is broken and this man is like at the end of his tether or anything like that. It's a very stale performance that feels like it's just to perform a role, and be the sort of audience, not audience insert, but to have the same arc come about that the first one put there of the slow discovery, but you don't feel the same passion behind not wanting to accept it in the first place, right?
You don't get any sense of pain and anguish within William Holden's performance throughout the entire movie up until I want to say the last like 15-20 minutes. He's just either denying it or he's annoyed by everyone trying to tell him what's going on. He's just shutting it down. There is no sense of inner conflict at all up until like near the very end when he's like, okay, yeah, he's evil. I gotta kill him. Like no struggle whatsoever, despite the fact that, you know, he's raised this kid as his own for like longer than Robert Thorne raised Damien. Like immediately after denying it the entire time that Damien is evil and not listening to anyone, eventually he's just like, okay, yeah, all right, cool, let's kill him. Fine, fuck it.
True.
Why not?
Extremely true. And like,
no character progression whatsoever. It just flips on a fucking dime because the script demands it.
Man, there are so many characters that come into this and then just are almost like fodder and die, and it seems like that they're going to be a big deal, and then they're not. Like,
yeah, I know, right?
Like, the freaking okay. So in the start of the film, after it opens with the very great 70s direct exposition to sort of get us up to scratch with what's happening in this franchise, we see this actor named Carl Bugenhagen, he plays the sort of a religion expert in Rome that Gregory Peck talks to in the first movie. The only actor to appear in more than one Omen film. And you're like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of a common thread here. He dies immediately. And then soon after that, there's this other character who is like sort of this crazy Ralph insert, who is this like woman wearing a red dress, the best dressed crazy Ralph insert in a horror film that I've seen. And she comes in, and I think, oh, okay, she's sort of going to be the guiding sort of force, like the sort of the entryway into the discovery of Damien, and sort of gonna expose a lot more people to this idea that there's something not quite right with this kid. But no, she's in there and sort of has her introduction as a character, and then a raven pokes her fucking eyes out, and then she gets hit by a truck, and then she's just gone.
I will say that despite her character, like, you know, being introduced as kind of the pseudo-protagonist and then just dying, like soon after, I will say it does provide arguably my favorite scene in the entire movie. Her death scene is fucking hilarious.
It is.
Just her getting pecked to death with the ray. It is hilarious, and also, like, look, I'll say this, the kills, they borderline on, like, one being kind of, like, hilarious, but also, like, being really well done. In a way, like, especially with the Raven death is surprisingly brutal, given how kind of almost cheap it kind of looks, despite the higher budget. It still looks kind of vicious and well done, you know?
I do agree with you that I loved this scene, but was laughing at this scene. Like, because it almost felt like it was so excessive in the way that it punished this character. Like, as in just
definitely.
It's just like, this thing, now your eyes are poked out, and now you're blindly walking onto the road and getting hit by a truck, and then the way that it, like the POV shot of the truck coming to her, and then her, like, not just getting hit by it, but then sort of, like, flying over the truck and then under the back wheel. It's just excessive that you're like, holy shit.
Fucking it's ridiculous.
Even though that it's still in the 70s, it turned into an 80s horror movie at that point.
Yeah. Oh, literally, yeah. I feel like I was watching like a Friday the 13th sequel with how excessively fucking brutal this shit was.
And from that moment forward, I'm like, I cannot take this film seriously anymore. Actually, no, sorry, the first death scene of the grandma getting killed just by a heart attack and just by being stared at by the Raven, it just made me think, what the fuck? Then if these demonic presences can just look at someone and then give them a heart attack, why don't they just do it? Why even bother to fucking poke someone's eyes out and then get them to get hit by a truck? Like, I
guess just like the Harbingers of Doom just want to spice things up, I guess. You know, you don't want to take the easy route every time, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only justification I can fucking think
of.
But
it was, again, just this old woman character, like, the first little bit of just all of a sudden is like, I don't trust this Damien kid. And it's like, you've known Damien for years. He has been a part of your life for years. And now for some reason, you're piping up about it, and then immediately dies, and has this sort of soap opera, oh no, sort of death.
Oh my god, yeah, dude,
so funny.
For some reason, during her death scene, all I could think about was shit, like when she's like collapsing on the bed and all that. All I could think about was just the scene in Spider-Man where Green Goblin breaks into Aunt May's room, and he's like, finish it, like just screaming at her, and I'm like laughing during the scene because I'm like, this is so fucking goofy. Like, having Green Goblin come in and scream at her would maybe give it a sense of realism, of authenticity. This is fucking ridiculous. The fucking from bloody B. Arthur from Golden Girls just dies of a heart attack in this movie. Jesus Christ, man.
Like, I just could not take anything seriously, to the point that that when the birthday party scene came up, I was wanting to be like, ooh, maybe there's going to be here, like, now it's going to get really dark and sort of mirror the birthday party from the first one. But then the scene opens and the birthday cake comes out, and the reactions to the birthday cake from the party goers is just so ridiculous. And, like, I think it's Damien. Is it Damien's birthday or his brother's?
It's his cousin's birthday.
Oh yes, yeah, it's
Mark.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark's birthday.
So Mark
yeah.
is cutting the cake, and just hearing the reaction of the party. I wish that I was watching this with you to point this out, but everyone's going, "Ooh, oh, get that lake!"
Oh,
whoa,
yeah.
And just their reactions were so cartoonish and ridiculous, and they're all like, "Oh, he's cutting the cake," and I was just like, "No, nothing dark is going to happen at this party now. If it does, I cannot. There's not a shred of my body that is going to be impacted upon with if anything dark goes on now."
I mean, look, Rhys, give them a break, okay? It was 1978. There's not, you know, they weren't doing ecstasy or fucking crocodile at this party and all that. It's a kids' party. They don't have their phones or any and Blur didn't come out yet, so there wasn't really that much to get excited about, you know.
So a lake on a cake is just the coolest thing they've ever fucking seen.
It is pretty fucking cool, man. It's a lake on a cake. It rhymes. And there's fireworks later on in that scene, Rhys. How exciting? How much more exciting can you get?
Man, they did not react nearly as animatedly to the fireworks as they did to the lake on a cake. But also, fireworks in the backyard does not rhyme like lake on a cake does.
No, not particularly. So that, you know, I guess we can forgive them for not having as much of an animated reaction towards the cake. I will say that cake did look pretty tasty.
It did look.
And I'm a guy that doesn't particularly really care for cake,
dude,
so, you know, if I'm saying that, then yeah.
That is so funny that you say that, because this sort of shows how unimmersed this film gets you in the horror of it all, is that when the cake comes out, I remember very actively thinking, wonder what that cake tastes like.
Yeah, dude, literally. Oh
like,
my
that is not what you're supposed to be thinking when you're watching a horror movie. You're not supposed to be like, damn, I wonder what that...
Not at all.
Like, have you seen the movie Ghost Story? I'm pretty sure.
Is that the one with Casey Affleck where he plays the sheet ghost?
Yes, that is exactly it. Yeah.
Right. Because isn't there like there's a 10-minute scene of Rooney Mara eating a pie, right?
Yes, exactly. And I love just thinking of like the Ghost Story is a very, very effective, immersive horror, sort of psychological, dreadful film. I wouldn't even know if you can call it horror, but
I wouldn't. I don't think I've ever seen it categorized as horror. But anyways, go on.
But anyway, it immerses you you see 10 minutes of this woman eating a pie, and you don't think ever, I wonder how this pie tastes. You think about everything else going on in this world right now. What is going through this woman's head? How are the dynamics going to work now in her life? You don't once think about the pie, but this cake comes on scene for 1 minute, and my attention right away goes to, tasty cake.
Yeah, oh my lord, yeah, literally, man. That is just, that's how you know you failed as a horror movie, where the audience members are just thinking, cake, yum. Oh, why are they so excited about a cake?
Yeah.
So it's just like thinking about everything else apart from the fucking horror and the story at hand, you know?
Yeah, it made, and that brings me to this very important point about Damien, Omen II. Damien Omen II, Opium number 2, is that there is nothing scary in this film. The horror, I forgot that it was a horror movie at a point. I forgot that the first film actually made me feel unease at points. This film does not make you feel that.
No, not at all. No, I can completely agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, I wanted to ask if you'd felt the same, and I'm glad that it wasn't just me.
Yeah. No. Yeah, this film, look, there's moments where they try to, make you feel uneasy and everything, but it falls flat. Like the kills, while fun, I didn't feel genuinely terrified or anything. There were fun kills, like the Raven kill and the elevator kill. They're fun,
the elevator kill! The best.
But I didn't feel genuinely terrified or anything. Like the elevator kill is great, but it's so ridiculous that it just kind of, it takes me out of because I don't know, the deaths in the first movie, while, you could make the argument that they are kind of goofy and all that, the way that they're portrayed and filmed, it makes it feel really horrifying. The beheading scene with the window pane, you pitch that to someone, it sounds fucking ridiculous. But the way the film presented that kill, it feels genuinely horrifying. Meanwhile, this elevator kill, I don't know. There's just something about it that, like, while it's a great kill, I don't feel like horrified by it. I'm also like, whoa, I feel like I'm an audience, like I'm like a typical like a horror movie. Like I feel like I'm watching a Friday the 13th movie where I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. What the hell? Meanwhile, in the first movie, I'm like, oh my god.
You know what these kills are akin to? They are Final Destination kills. That's what they are. And like even down to the way that so many of the deaths in this film, it almost sort of like gives you a red herring way of how they're going to die, and then you think, oh, maybe they're not dead, and then they bring out a whole, like, the actual thing that kills them. Like, with
oh, no, sorry, you go first.
With the Raven kill, well, it's not even the Ravens that kill her, it's the Ravens that make her blind, and then the Raven fucks off, and you think, oh, okay, she's not dead yet, that's interesting, but then she's blind, and then wanders in front of the truck. And it gives you that sort of, like, it's like another false sense of security. Maybe they made it out of this one, but then that's the thing. Same with the elevator. Yeah. When he gets all the way down to the bottom, and you're like, oh, okay, he's fine now. But then it's the thing that he feels that he's safe. He doesn't think that he's going to die. And then it's the cable that comes out of nowhere and then just, like, cuts the entire freaking elevator and himself in half. Which is so much like how Final Destination do their kills. This Rube Goldberg machine of death, really, that you think that it hasn't worked. You think that it's failed, but then actually all the pieces have been put in place, but the grand climax is yet to come.
It's all part of Def's
twisted plan.
Exactly. I'm really glad that you actually brought up the Final Destination thing, because I like while doing reading before recording, I've seen comments that are like, oh yeah, like, oh, this is very Final Destination-esque and all that, and like the first Omen, it basically like not created the
Omen 1975.
No.
Not the first Omen.
No. Oh, yeah, sorry. Omen 1975. Fucking
I know. It's so fucking annoying.
But like the thing is that like while it didn't create this particular kind of genre of horror movie and horror movie kill, it was, I think, from what I remember reading, one of the first examples of accidental or coincidental horror in terms of the way its kills are perceived, because the first movie does the same kind of thing where it's like, oh, these accidental deaths and all that. Like the window pane kill would feel very much at home in a Final Destination movie, but the way that it is presented in that first film feels like a genuine, like, horrific accident. And then in this, they feel real, they feel grounded, it feels scary. In this movie, it feels like Final Destination, where it's just so fucking ridiculous and so elaborate that I felt like, I was watching the Final Destination 1 or the shitty sequels that came afterwards. Like, it's ridiculous. Hey, that's not a bad series for us to do at some point. Oh, God.
That would be a great franchise to actually do. But, dude, you are right.
I hate the Final Destination movies so much.
Oh, really?
But yeah, anyways, go on. Well, as a kid, I fucking hated them, man. But yeah, go on.
Okay, you used the perfect word, I think, which is elaborate. Like the accidental deaths in the Omen 1. That's what I'm going to try and call it instead of mixing it up with the first Omen. To give context to everyone, the Omen film that is coming out this year in the year of our Lord 2024.
The whole reason that we're doing this series as well, by the way.
The whole reason that we're doing this.
We're trying to cash in, boys.
Even though that it is the sixth Omen, it is called The First Omen, which is going to make it very tricky when we actually want to talk about the first Omen movie.
I hate it.
Look, it is.
I hate that shit so. I hate modern movie naming conventions. Just do Friday the 13th. Just call it Part 1, Part 2, or give it like a shitty subtitle. You don't need to call it like The First Omen or the First Purge. Like, fuck off.
I miss.
You're not cool. You're not cool. You're not fucking subversive. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like I love the Scream movies, but even then, that naming convention pissed the fuck off out of me with Scream 5 just being called Scream. Just stop with this, man. Just go back to basics, please.
It's so impractical. But anyway, I digress. This movie also looks so uninteresting. Like, it's so flat looking. I thought I thought at the start, because I noticed in the first movie, all all of these like really clever sort of like framing of the film, of like the shadows of the crosses and like the flames behind Damien when he's in shot, things like that. As the movie opens and our new Damien is introduced, he is walking towards this fire where there's like you can just see him behind this like fire in the foreground. That I'm like, oh, okay, that's like that's a nice little movie detail that, you know, sort of introduces this presence of his, and then gives a little bit of complexity to the way that you're framing this. Nothing like that I noticed for the entire rest of the film. Just flat, boring, and cheap. And when you have double the money and a lot more to work with, why make that the case? It even looks crisper. This is honestly, in defense, it could be the reason that the Omen 1976, actually, sorry, it's 76, not 75. The reason that might look crisper is because it's a more iconic film that potentially on Disney Plus had like a more remastered sort of version on there,
right?
In comparison to Damien, Omen II.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because I didn't watch this on Disney Plus. I watched this on DVD from like an old ass copy that I've had since 2012. So the quality was actually kind of worse on this DVD that I was watching, but it kind of added to the movie a lot more. But I do get what you mean that like because this is such like a landmark horror movie, it obviously would be a lot like it would have gone through a lot more remastering and all that. You know, to really like give it a pristine quality. You know, considering that is so iconic.
But regardless of that, this second one still in every way looks a lot worse, annoyingly.
Yeah. Completely.
Also, we have to go with saying that a lot of this movie is set in a military school, which seems to have started this weird horror sequel subgenre of military schools.
Legitimately, my first thought was, oh god, it's Child's Play 3 all over again.
Yeah,
fuck.
Exactly.
Oh my god, and it's no better than in Child's Play 3. It is so like I just think military school adjacent, like military school focused like stuff in horror movies and like in a lot of movies as well is fucking boring.
I
honestly.
Totally agree. It's something
so fucking boring. You're not Full Metal Jacket. Stop trying to be Full Metal Jacket. Every movie is trying to do like the military school or the boot camp focus setting, trying to you know recapture that magic, trying to capture that magic. Although this came out before Full Metal Jacket, but still, that's not the point. It's just a boring fucking setting. I don't care about military school settings. You're not that episode of The Simpsons where Bart and Lisa were in military school. Stop trying to be that.
I've got a theory that I think that the reason why this setting pops up a lot more in media and why it doesn't really resonate with us and a lot of
military propaganda. Is it military propaganda?
No, it's actually not. Sorry. What I think it is.
Okay. Sorry, I was thinking of Transformers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, military industrial complex. That's my explanation. No. I think that it is that a lot of the people going to these military schools are coming from very, very wealthy families, and then these people that are then going to military schools, growing up, then are very likely becoming very wealthy people, and then are going into the field of either creative fields or like fields of power where the storytelling class, like this is the thing that we, I think, like ignore a lot of the time, is a lot of the people, especially in like the 70s and 80s, that are able to be filmmakers and work in film are most likely coming from quite sort of well-off backgrounds, because it's a quite sort of privileged industry to be in, right? It's not one that you go to if you need to like make ends meet, right? Like it's one that you go to if you most likely sort of have a backup, or you have a bit of a safety net behind you, because it is like a quite unreliable industry. It really, really is.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stories that we're seeing are coming from and being made, written by, directed, produced by people that have potentially gone to these schools and are familiar with the life of military school, military camp, and what that means and how formative that can be for people. Where we did not do that. We went to a public school, and most of the people that we know and are friends with are public school people that cannot relate to that sort of way of education or that experience, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it, honestly. Like, there's just no realm of relatability when it comes to these settings. Like, there's nothing to really like latch onto in a more personal matter, you know.
For like sort of the middle class, working class sort of thing. It's a lot harder to relate to that. In the same way that when you think of a lot of films from the 70s and 80s that are about schooling life, it's usually you think of the Good Will Huntings, the Dead Poets Society, even The Graduate, things like that, that are going to very prestigious schools. It would be. I honestly cannot think of a film probably pre-90s that depicts sort of a lower class schooling lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm sure there are examples, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. Also, just one other thing that just I don't like about these military school plots, they're all the fucking same kind of character. No, the thing is, like, same character tropes. You know, you got like the big bully and all that. You've got the hard ass drill instructors.
You've
and
got the Antichrist personified into a teenage boy, like that. It's always the same.
Exactly, like in this, personified in a teenage boy. In Child's Play 3, personified as a doll possessed by a serial killer. It all blends together, in my opinion. You know, you'd be remiss to not get these plot lines confused. You know,
whenever we're not at the military school. You know what a lot of the rest of this film is as well? It's a lot of old men that sort of look the same talking in suits. That's a lot of...
Yep, and it's so fucking boring. I'm getting I was actually kind of not all right, look, I wasn't dreading doing this episode because obviously I love doing talking about movies, especially if I have a less than favorable opinion on them, but I was dreading it because, like, I just feel like I wasn't gonna have much to say on this movie because I didn't have really a lot of thoughts while watching this movie apart from I'm bored. This kind of sucks, and there's nothing much to latch onto apart from some kind of unintentionally hilarious moments. I will say though that because I made this point earlier that an Omen sequel focusing on a teenage Antichrist could have worked well, and there are seeds that are planted in this movie where, like, we get the scene of Damien reading his Bible after being prompted to by Lance Hendrickson, and we get him kind of like, running dramatically through the woods to the pier, which is a fucking weird scene of him just like, I feel like I'm watching like
Why me?
Yeah, literally. I feel like I'm watching I feel like I'm watching Bridge to Terabithia or some shit after like the fucking girl dies or whatever.
Yeah.
No, but it could have presented like a really interesting character study of like, yes, he is the spawn of Satan, but he is still he's not actually Satan. He is the spawn of Satan, so he is his own entity. Like he has his own agency. Like you could have explored something really interesting of him. Maybe kind of would he want this? Does he want this? Is it necessarily yes, it is his destiny, but is it his only destiny type of thing? But then, literally, later on, doesn't talk about it, doesn't talk about his feelings and thoughts about his revelations, and just carries on as if nothing happened. And yep, he's just the Antichrist. He's accepted his role and all that. So, do you get what I mean though, Rhys? This film could have explored some really interesting dynamic with the effects of how puberty were to affect a normal preteen boy. Couple that with the effects of Damien's destiny and potential as the Antichrist. Do you get what I'm saying?
We are on the exact same page. This is
okay. Yeah, good.
I thought that I was actually really liking this when those seeds started to be planted, because that is the perfect exploration of Damien as a teenager. Being a teenager is all about self-discovery, figuring out who you are. Imagine if the answer to that is that you are the Antichrist. What the fuck? What a cool concept to deal with, and potentially a little bit more interesting than the idea of just being a child and like the first movie is about the father discovering that his child is the Antichrist. This one discovering that you are this and struggling with the idea that it's like you have a role and a responsibility, and it's a malicious, dark one at that. And seeing him not want it at first, I'm like, this is great shit. That if it kept on going on that road, I would have probably liked this more than the first one. But you are completely right that he accepts it so quickly and without showing of the struggle, which is really frustrating to see. I loved even before he figures out what he is, and as you notice more and more people in his life knowing that he is the Antichrist and becoming the support network and trying to be mentors and guide him to this self-discovery. I loved that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool, is that like I think that at that point he would have potentially thought that, okay, this is quite normal. This is people that care about me and support me are just trying to get me to figure out the chat that we had at the start of this freaking episode, right? Is that you're a teenager now, things are going to start changing a little bit. And it's very normal for him, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Like, I know that you're gonna start getting pubic hair and feeling funny about girls. I know all about that. And then it's like, holy shit, no, they are talking about that I have to take over the world one day. What the fuck? And you're right. The scene when he's like reading the Bible is awesome. Imagine there being a book that is like that you are a character in this book almost, and reading this prophecy that you are that prophecy. Fascinating.
Yeah.
And then when he sort of embraces evil, he just sort of fucks over everyone at the factory, right? And it goes from him being unsure to him being ready to kill and having no remorse for it, which is a worse freaking arc than Tom Blythe's character, like Tom Blythe's freaking President Snow in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes,
God,
man.
Yeah, oh my lord, we're probably like the only people to connect fucking a big budget, recent big budget Hollywood picture with a shitty fucking late 70s horror sequel. Like, trust Marathon Me to make those connections. Trust us.
You sure? Like, so you weren't across all of the discourse surrounding Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes coming out, everyone talking about how it just ripped off Damien Omen II. You weren't across that?
I guess I just wasn't really predominantly online during that whole talk debate and all that. I guess. Damn, I can't believe I missed out on that. Fuck.
Yeah, man. I have a big question for you. Do you feel like that these movies are anti or pro religion? Did you? But it can be that you just feel neutral about it at this point in the franchise.
I feel like I guess like I just feel kind of neutral. I guess like I don't know. Like I feel like the first one had a lot more to say about like religion and the Bible and all that. But I guess like because the type of person that I am, there's just a lot of like religious stuff can kind of go over my head because like I'm not a religious person at all, and a lot of it, look, I'm gonna say like I find it fascinating, but I don't understand a lot of it. So even if there is something to be said, it is going to go over my head sometimes because either I don't understand it or I just don't particularly care about it because I'm not really a religious type person and all that. So the first one, I feel like the 1976 film, I feel like has something to say. With this, I really don't know if it's saying if it's against religion or for religion. Like I honestly I couldn't tell you. Like, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Okay, I think that the first film is quite neutral about religion in the way of like being pro or anti. I think that it's more just like exploring it and a bit of like diving into the law as just like a bit of a source text, where I feel like this one, I think it's actually quite pro-religion, honestly. The way in which characters are like all you have to do to get rid of this and save yourself is to drink the blood of Christ and ingest his body. Like the priest at the start of Omen II is pretty much saying to the father that he will be okay if he's just religious. If he just his soul will be saved by that. And there's other characters as well that pop up in this one that are like, you can save yourself by just being religious. And it's these and almost what it is, right, is the thing that allows Damien to keep on growing in power and stuff is people ignoring the fact that Satan is among us. And that's a very religious sentiment, right? Is like, accept that God and Satan is around, because if you are ignorant to it, then your soul will be condemned. And I think it's actually quite pro-religion. And I've only seen so far in this marathon the trilogy, but I think that it does continue on in the next one as well.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I think that we can probably like wrap this one up soon, right? What are your? Do you have any last things to say?
In my opinion, the film either should have been like a decent character study on Damien, or, you know, you're a shitty horror sequel from made in the late 70s to the early 80s. Get weird with it. Going into this movie, I was kind of half expecting it to be like a silly romp about a teenage Damien fucking around with his powers, and then eventually kind of like, you know, coming to grips with the fact that, oh yeah, he's the son of Satan, let me have some fun with this. Like, I was thinking like the movie was going to have a lot of fun with like, this is a teenage antichrist. Ooh, what kind of shenanigans will he get up to? Like, that's what I was kind of going into this movie thinking I was going to get. Low key. If I was going to get like a self-serious character study, I would have at least liked a fun kind of like little ridiculous romp about the son of Satan. But we didn't really get either of those. We just got a very boring, self-serious but occasionally ridiculous horror sequel. That was it, with mostly just old men talking. Basically, like, it's just a fucking bore, you know?
Very, very fair. And the thing that hurts the most about it is that it could have been so much more than that. It really, really could have. And
yeah,
and like I definitely feel like it was dragging near the end here, especially. And this is the strange thing that about this movie too, is that I think that the ending doesn't really have a climax. It is devoid of a climax entirely. There's this, I think, actually a very cool twist that through his uncle sort of discovering, coming to terms with that Damien is the Antichrist, one of his sort of major supporters, or like people doubting, one of the major people that is at the uncle's ear going, no, he's just a boy, he's fine, he's just a boy, is his wife.
Yeah.
And you're thinking that it's because the whole time that she just thinks it's ridiculous that he could be anything other than just a human. Where then this twist comes at the end that she is actually a devout follower and defender of Damien, and then kills the uncle as like a way but to keep him from getting discovered. I think really cool twist. But then
definitely threw me for a loop. But yeah, go on.
But then just happened, was put out there, a fucking fireball came out of nowhere, summoned by Damien, and then the movie ends. It's
just
there is like, it's like that the climax was about to start, where our sort of protagonist now is aware of the beast that surrounds him, and then he's now gonna go on his like sort of process to try and kill him. But then his wife cuts off the climax from happening, kills him, and then the movie ends. And then she gets killed and blown up in a fiery freaking ball made up by Damien. That you just think, what? Why is this happening?
Yeah. Literally just a literal second after, you know, her revelation of her being one of Damien's devout devil worshippers, boom, just dead. Just, you know, it's like you probably didn't even really need the twist, because it comes and goes so fucking quickly that if you blink, you'll just miss it, because it's that fucking rushed.
Yeah, and then Damien sort of like walks off into the distance outside, looks at the camera, and then the last shot is Damien looking at us. The only shot that is in a different aspect ratio for some reason.
Yeah, I noticed that too. What the fuck? I literally have that in my notes. I'm like, what? Okay. I'm like, okay. Like, how I literally have in my notes is like, how ... profound.
It goes from 16:9 to actually no. It goes from like a sort of like it's a sort of longer aspect ratio to then goes to like CinemaScape sort of thing. Like a wider screen. Why? I don't fucking get why it's done this.
I guess maybe they're just trying to really, I don't know, they're trying to recapture the impact of the final shot of the previous movie, but it just doesn't hit the same, and also it just feels completely out of left field with, you know, the different aspect ratios. Like, it's fucking weird, dude.
Yeah, it was really pointless, the whole freaking thing. It went from like I think it was like almost TV size the entire time, like at a 4:3 aspect ratio, and then at the end it goes to like the 16:9 ratio instead, and then it cuts off the credit, like the credits as well fit into that. So I don't get the point, which sort of brings me on to my final statement about this film. Is that, so what the fuck was this actually about? What was it? I kept on thinking that I understood what the point of this film was, and then they would fail to bring it home. And then I sort of thought, oh, was this movie just made to be an Omen sequel, have some death scenes to get teenagers to buy tickets and make out during?
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head. It hit the
Antichrist on the horns.
Exactly. I think that is, they literally just made this. It's like a Friday the 13th Part 2 scenario. Just make the same movie again, but this time with more of the budget, so that way you can make more money, and just make a nice stupid horror movie for teenagers to go and make out during. Like, there was no real I like to think there's no real like integrity behind this sequel. Like, it was just made as a cash grab, basically.
So Kane, let's just hope that Sam Neill's brings the Christ back to Antichrist. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like podcast without the ask.